replaced that key for that ATV for a key for a gun cabinet, that parent would have gone to jail. How come there's a sledgehammer approach to what all these people in this room do as opposed to going at the parent? It was completely the wrong way to do it. So, you know what I'm saying is, if it was an unlocked gun cabinet and that kid shot his friend, can you see the point I'm trying to make?
Yes.
Is in, by the way, I broke my neck in a swimming pool 23 years ago. I had ridden bikes as a kid, raced bulls as 14 years, and cars for 5. I didn't start a cry, I started being in swimming pools, because like a gentleman mentioned here earlier and stuff. And you know, you talk about the one gentleman mentioned about the go-kart things. You know, we concession go-kart tracks are in mass a lot. The batting cages, they all have height limits. Now you have to go up to that. But you said Seacock. I don't know why there's an exclusion for golf carts, but anything that carries a golf bag is excluded from any of these off-road rules. You know, we talk about the UTVs and things, all these colleges, all these universities, all these high schools, having to run the kids around on football field, their equipment. What about them? The reaching effect of this is huge across the state. And then, you know, it's going to lose so much money. I have a racetrack where I've taught kids 5 years old to ride, and I'm very safety concerned, probably more than most people know, because I've been through a tragedy. These kids have gone into professional road races and dirt trackers, just like the motocross industry has had guys in New England done things, the same with Metro. There's all these events over the course of the weekend. And the fact that I have 2 businesses, and you talk about this advisory group, that somebody who is on the Audubon Society couldn't give 2 craps about my business or my personal racetrack. And they're on the advisory committee to determine where our futures go. Paul, you were taking pictures when I was 12 years old. Dirt tracking allowed. But the fact that I can't go to my legislature and hold his phone over his head to a group of people that obviously, and it's nothing against the person, the people that are here, but the groups, there's some groups that just hate us, and we know that. You know, but to have them have say in putting me out of business if these rules, the age limits and restrictions go into effect, this is not the way America was formed, people. Not at all. You know, and I've had my own business for 21 years in a private club. For 15, I fought the town for 5 years over stupid lawsuits. We beat the town. We proved the right and stuff. This meeting scared me more than anything I've done in the last 20-something years of motorcycles. Coming here and trying to convince people who somehow have their mindset against us, and the fact that my hand, my life is in the handful of people. What goes on in this state? We can't let it win.
My name is Bill Reardon, from Upton, Mass, a member of NETRA, and that is a very difficult act to follow. I don't know where to start. No, I spoke last night. I was asked to provide written testimony, so I'm bringing a copy of that. To the gentleman who made the comment regarding representation of the motorcycle groups, people who weren't in Boston last night, we did have speakers, representatives from NETRA Board of Directors, lobbyists for the Motorcycle Industry Council, and lobbyists for the New England Trail Riders Association, and a number of other people spoke on your behalf last night in Boston. And also to reiterate what everyone said, there are certain things that this group cannot do. It is the law that they are asked to enforce. What everybody needs to do tonight, tomorrow, contact your legislators. There is already movements, there is already legislation being drafted, and everybody needs to make a call and get your reps and your senators to support it. These folks here have heard a lot of testimony. They want to support it, but you've got to contact your legislators. Now, to get down to a little bit more granularity, I know there's been a lot of commentary. Discussion was held last night. Back to the regulations and Chapter 202 of the Acts of 2010. Discussion was had. More review was done today, and I would like to submit that this 10-year-old restriction, based on the facts and the way the law was written, is currently in violation. Having that on the books today until you receive, because the ORV Working Committee has not provided input on the 10-year-old regulation. By the Act, as written, you cannot have a 10-year-old regulation in place right now, and it needs to be removed. It can only be put in place after the 90-day period, after the public hearings, and after receiving input from the OHV Advisory Committee. So by default, that law, even though it was on the books previously, as written, it is not consistent with the Acts of 2010, Chapter 202, and it needs to be removed immediately and cannot be legally enforced. The issue we're concerned with is not your officers showing up at an event and breaking stones, as someone said, on an event. We know that that's not your intention. The issue is liability insurance that has coverage for the events is null and void if we're in violation of any state regulations. That is why events are being canceled today by regulation that is not consistent with the law. And what we're asking is that until the process is completed legislatively and through the review process, that needs to be removed from the books immediately so events can continue legally without putting owners of tracks and organizations exposed from a liability standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
We're gonna ask for one more speaker quickly.
Sir, is there any representatives here in Boston last night from the government?
Tell me right here.
Senator Rogers spoke on our behalf last night.
Say your name real loud and clear. Last speaker, please give him our due.
I am Alex McConnell from Boylston, Mass, and I say we should not pass this law. This law is outrageous. I am 10 years old and I deserve to be able to ride in my own backyard. With this law in place, I can't do that. I can't have fun in my backyard on my dirt bike. I mean, I have two. What am I going to do when I can't ride? This is crazy. This is not something we should let pass.